Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. I'm Jason Watsky with Greg Boyson and Mario Tirabassi. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday afternoon. We had a long morning over at Fifth Third Arena. We've got a bunch of video and audio, if you're a podcast listener, to share with you. You're going to hear from Seth Jones, Nick Foligno, Kyle Davidson. As the week goes on, we'll have a whole bunch more to share. But there was a common theme to today's press conferences. We want to bring that to you. Before we do us a favor, hit that like button for us. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube page as well. Same deal on your favorite podcast app. Follow, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Fellas, we've been together for 3.5 hours and haven't really said much of a word to each other.
3.5 hours.
3.5.
6.5 hours.
5 hours.
It's been a revolving door of Blackhawks and Blackhawks leadership.
Yes,
Long day.
Lots of cliches and
Obviously.
Oh my God,
For
so
sure.
many obviously.
For sure, lots of obviouslies. You know,
If we were to have to drink after every obviously said today, we would have died around 11:30 this morning. Holy crap! Find a new word, hockey players.
yeah. All right. So, as this was going on, obviously quotes were
you
rolling
said
out.
Yeah,
on
obviously.
obviously, quotes were rolling around on social media from Seth Jones. And because Seth Jones spoke, and even though he says the same stuff that a lot of people say all the time, people don't want to hear it.
People are hearing what they want to hear from Seth Jones.
That is absolutely correct. So here's what we're going to do instead of letting you hear what you want to hear, we're going to let you hear what Seth Jones actually said. Mm-hmm. So this is not the whole thing. The whole thing will be posted on YouTube today. But with a little bit of context here, perhaps we can really hear what Seth Jones is saying here, because I think if you watch this season, you'll probably agree. All right, here's Seth Jones from mere hours ago.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Saw a lot of guys get their first NHL games the last few weeks, and that Daly did a great job of coming in there. You can see he's already has the NHL defenseman stature to him. He's big, physical. He had a couple big hits in that game that he played. He moves the puck well. So that was awesome to see. You saw Vlasy, playing with him all year, just tremendous steps. I mean, I played with Werenski when he was 21, and they're different players, but you see the same stuff that you're seeing there. I am personally. So Vlasy's going to be a heck of a defenseman, and I had a lot of fun playing with him this year. You saw Coors take great steps this year too. Obviously, we wanted to compete a little harder and things like that, and I think Kevin Dean, the D coach, did a great job of, being hard at him but letting him play through things. I think that's what it's all about when you're trying to develop players. So, Kaisi had a pretty good season with us too when he was up with us. We saw a lot of guys, Krebby, Philly, a lot of guys played for us this year on the back end, a lot of young guys, and it's not an easy thing to play right now, especially as a young defenseman here. So you're put in a lot of different situations that you normally wouldn't be put in, and I thought they all did a great job of staying composed for the most part.
What do you think it would take for this group to be more competitive next year and take that next step?
I think we need to be a little bit more dialed into our system, I think. Whether that's defensive zone or offensive with the puck, or just kind of knowing where everyone's at, taking some of the gray out of the game. When I won't say that. I mean, we just went through bad stretches where we're all getting frustrated, and then we start, kind of trying to do our own thing and do it ourselves. And I think we really have to try to stay away from that and do our best too. That obviously comes with the leadership. That's my job. That's Nick's job and Jason's job and Connor's job and the older guys to kind of keep that together as best as we can. But we just want to see growth. We want to get into a situation where we're developing bad habits, and that turns into different things. So we want to be, moving together and working toward a common goal every single game, whether it's a win or a loss. Sometimes the lesson is there even when you don't get the result. So we need to learn to kind of take those negative results we're getting right now and turn them into a positive and hopefully win more games.
Foligno was saying after that game in LA that he wants to see some personnel changes just because obviously this year wasn't acceptable and the front office may not be as aggressive as he would like them to be, but have you given any thought to that, or are you hoping to see some new guys brought in this summer?
Yeah, I've had good talks with Fliggy, privately about that, and in the leadership group, of course. But I think he's right when it comes to that. I know we need some identity pieces. I think we need guys that want to play 10 to 12 minutes on a fourth line or third line, go out there, do his job, be happy that the team won without scoring a goal or getting a point. He goes out there, he does his job, he gets off, he doesn't complain about his ice time, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to see the team win, and while he's doing his job to the best of his ability. So I think we call them identity pieces. Guys like that will bring different guys into the fight in those situations. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with Nick saying that.
How did you see the leadership of the team evolve this year in the first season after Jonathan Taves left his get?
Obviously, we were hit with challenges, from the start here, just with the expectation of we're in a rebuild. And I think when you're, my age or you're even Nick's age, you want to win. And it's frustrating when you're not and you don't know what to do about it. Obviously, there's different expectations when it comes to management and when it comes to the players. We want to see results now. We're not patient. So we're not as patient as they are. We don't play this game forever. They're in the game a lot longer than we are. And so that is a tough thing to balance. Not getting frustrated at mistakes that are going to be inevitable with a young team. That's another challenge that me personally had to deal with, and I know the leadership group did too. So it's not easy. I'll tell you that. A lot of sleepless nights, and trying to come to the rink with a positive attitude when you can. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be happy, which we shouldn't be happy that we're losing. But I think trying to stay positive and, like I said, learn from this process.
Tyler Johnson was saying that, reflecting on his time in Chicago, it wasn't exactly what he envisioned or wanted when he first got here. And certainly in your case, you could definitely make that argument. Does it feel like, in a way, the rug was pulled out from under you for the circumstances with which you came to Chicago?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think if you could see into the future 3 months, in the position I was in, I don't know if I would have, this is a great organization, obviously, but I didn't really want to rebuild, when I left Columbus. So I completely agree. I was coming to a team that had a lot of great young players that we were building towards something, it felt like, and I think a lot of things happened, away from hockey in the organization that they kind of had to reroute and take a different approach. And listen, I respect what Kyle and Norm and everyone's doing in the organization. I think it's going to be a successful organization again and get where we want to be again. But yeah, it's definitely been a tough 3 years. As you probably know, you're watching it too, right?
As a player, do you try to speed up that process? Like, you try to find ways to be like, man, how can we make this go faster?
Of course, you're constantly thinking about that, right? You want to, if I would tell management today, go sign a bunch of free agents, so, or go do this, go do that, but it's not, it's not up to us, it's up to them. And we, next year I hope that, we look at teams like Nashville. No one thought they had a chance. Philly. No one thought they had a chance to be even competing for the playoffs. So we want to be one of those teams where we don't have a lot of skill. So we want to. I think when you look at those teams, you can see that they all on the same page. They're doing the same thing. They're working toward a common goal. Because team success is the driving force to you being, getting another deal or whatever it is. Everyone wants winners. So I think that's something that we really have to hammer home here.
The identity pieces that you're talking about, what's the key to developing that inside the room with some of these young guys? And are there already a few candidates that you feel can?
Well, I don't think it's something you develop. I think it's something that you want to do. You know, you have to want to go be F1 and go hit that defenseman, go be F2. You're not going to touch the puck probably, but you're going to make that guy's life hell. You know, so and when you do that every single shift and you always do the right thing, it's not easy to play against. And we don't want to be an easy team to play against. So you have to want to block a shot. You have to want to do the right thing. You know, even though it's not the glory thing to do. It's not the goal. It's not the saucer pass. I think we need a little bit more of that kind of grit in our game that you saw a team like Nashville have when we played them, a few weeks ago against us. And they're every single shift, you know exactly what they're doing. You can't do anything about it.
I mean, you talk about identity pieces, and there's some outside observers that say, like, folks like yourself and Foligno maybe expect too much because maybe the talent is not there. I mean, do you agree with that assessment, or is it like guys not wanting certain roles or guys checked out?
I think when you have a team of 1 year deals, it's extremely difficult to get everyone on the same page of a common goal. Everyone wants points. Everyone's going to do that to look out for themselves. It's extremely difficult. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think that will be one of our biggest challenges moving forward when you have a bunch of guys on 1 and 2 year deals. It's tough. And that's where we have to hammer home team success will drive your next deal. If you're in the playoffs, if people see you playing in the playoffs, they see you're a winner, you're going to get, you know what I mean? People respect that.
You guys played without a formal captain this year. Do you think you'll have one next year? Would you like one?
I'm not sure.
Step into that role?
I'm not sure what management's thinking with that. I haven't talked to them about that.
A lot of guys have kind of similar temperaments, like you and Foligno and Jason. You've been around other groups. Do you kind of need, excuse my language, an a-hole in the room to?
I know exactly what you mean. Do we need an a-hole in the room? I played with some, for sure. It could be kind of a love-hate thing, but you don't see it as much anymore. It's definitely a character trait that's not as prevalent, in my opinion. But I do think it's important that there is a guy in the room, and you can call him an a-hole, but that will tell you how it is and is not afraid to do that. Do we need one of those guys? Maybe. Maybe we do. I fought to try to not do that sometimes, even though it's necessary. But when push comes to shove and you're in a team meeting or you're talking to the guys about how we can make this thing better, there has to be someone in there that will tell you just how it is. And I think that's, like you said, we can call it an a-hole, but I think that's one of the more important guys in a locker room. You can look everyone in the eye and say, you're not doing a good enough job. You're not doing a good enough. So the answer is probably yes. It's coming from me.
Seth, when you're talking about the 1 and 2 year deals, I just want to make sure I understand right. It's a business. 1 or 2 year deal.
Sure.
You've got the next contract you have to worry about. That has to be marketed to a general manager or somebody's got to I like those numbers. I'm going to sign this guy. I'm going to give him some money. Are you saying that when people have 1 or 2 year deals, they're more concerned about individual statistics than little quiet things than what hockey looks?
Yeah, I just think it's natural. Okay. I think it's very natural. I've had Caleb was on a 1 or 2 year deal, and if you play bad or you don't get a point in a while, you are thinking about that. I mean, it's just human nature, right? You don't, like I said, you don't play forever, so you're constantly thinking about your next deal or whatever it is. You're talking to your agent away from the rink. I'm not saying you bring that into the rink as through your personality or the things you say, but sometimes you can't tell when you're in a hockey game, and maybe it's harder for media to tell, and it probably is. But when you're down there on that ice, and you feel it.
Do you think there's maybe something wrong with the culture of the sport, where a general manager might actually look at goals and assists rather than the other things that a player did?
No, it's not. No.
Your process might be a little.
That's not really. No, I'm not saying that it's a general manager problem. I'm just saying it's just a human nature problem. If you have a team of 1-year deals, it's not easy to get everyone to play for one thing.
There he is, Seth Jones. We're going to get to what he said here in a moment. But first, Mario's going to tell you about the greatest meat product in the world.
Hey, do you like pork?
Yes.
Well, good. It's a good thing that you do, because as Google makes me verify that I am myself to tell you about pork, let me tell you that pork is some of the best meat that you could eat out there because of its high protein count. And hey, anybody else have this open right now? Because my computer is now.
Yeah. If you ever look at our buddy Steven, who is jacked, he's always wearing tank tops,
Very
even
jacked.
like in the middle of winter. You know, the people who are active like Steven need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, not diabetics, Dietitians of Canada and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend
Can I guess how many?
1.2 to 2 grams of protein per
I
kilogram.
was going to say 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes.
Yeah.
Depending on their training. For about a 150-pound person, that's 81 to 136 grams of protein per day. Good thing for you, pork in 1 to 3 ounce serving provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends people who are involved in a general fitness program, or who are interested in optimizing their health, eat low-fat, high-quality sources of protein, which include lean cuts of pork. So what you want to do to elevate your protein game, do it with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers.
Hell yeah.
From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product. This was paid for by the Illinois pork producers. Generations of commitment to pork, your well-being through pork.
I pledge, as a loyal contributor to our sponsors, that I promise you I will eat a ton of pork.
Now that I have
That is
been
my vow.
told specifically the benefits of eating pork, I will eat more.
I think I'll put some pork on my nachos tonight instead of no meat.
Yes, I
Because
think
I
that's
need
a good
it. Because
idea.
I'm active, actively editing videos.
Well, you're in a general fitness program.
Sure.
General
Fitting into
fitness.
these pants. Hey, and when you're eating your pork, you want to wash it down, but not with something that's going to undo the healthy eating you're doing. You need a light beer, and there's no better light beer than Coors Light. And boy, you know, this was a very stressful morning, taking you behind the curtain. A lot happening very quickly.
A lot.
And trying to get here and park and feed videos and all that stuff. It's a lot. So as soon as this show's over, I'm cracking open a nice cold Coors Light because I need to chill. And when you need to chill, that's exactly what you should do too. Oh, that's it. There's just a preview of what's coming. Love it. When the mountains turn blue on your Coors Light, it is as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When it's time to chill, open a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies, and more importantly, it's effing delicious. When it's time to chill, Coors Light is the beer we reach for. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door right now with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And fellas, last night we were getting the ball fields ready in Homewood because today's opening day, and the people that were working the fields, there were 2 cases of beer brought in. There was a Coors Light and there was a inferior beer.
Non-Coors Light.
And the Coors Light was gone and the other one was not by the end of the night. So that speaks for itself. When you're out there shoveling Diamond Dry, and get yourself a nice cold Coors Light. All right, so I'm going to do my best to not flip out during this show. I'm really going to do my best because I know
Should we turn off the chat?
that the
then?
comments in the chat and the comments on Twitter do not reflect real life. But I want everyone to challenge themselves. I'm seeing people on the chat saying that Seth Jones is checked out. Seth Jones is unhappy and he's causing problems. He's a bad influence on these young players. What are you hearing? He is being honest. We beg hockey players, specifically hockey players, to speak from the heart, to say what they think, to say what they believe, and to be honest. And that's what he was doing. He was telling you there were guys on this team that were pissed they weren't getting enough ice time so their stats wouldn't go high enough.
Mm-hmm.
He said, when asked to point the thumb at himself, he said, there were nights I tried to do too much because I was trying to will us into victory, and it ended up costing the team. I don't know how you can look at Seth Jones, who plays half the game, who is not calling out by name, because you call him out by name and that's dick behavior. You can't do that.
Right.
But basically telling you there are guys here who are only worried about their stats and ice time and don't care about winning and don't care about doing their jobs. And for some reason, when Nick Foligno says it and Luke Richardson says it and Kyle Davidson says it, it's okay. But when Seth Jones says it, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
It's because people have it in their mind that he is part of the problem when he's not. He is a guy who, as he said, and as I think anyone with half a brain could use logic and realize, he is in a situation that he did not sign up for. When he was signed by the former GM of this team, when he joined the team to an 8-year contract, he was told, we are going to contend.
Yep.
We are going to bring in guys that are going to help us be a playoff team, and we believe you are part of that, and we're gonna have playoff hockey here in Chicago. We're going to be a contender. And he was leaving a Columbus team that wasn't doing that. So he thought, great, that's a great idea. That sounds good. I'm going to sign up for that.
Yeah.
And he was brought in the same summer where Jake McCabe and Marc-Andre Fleury and Tyler Johnson were all brought in to a Blackhawks team that, still had some guys around, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews,
DeBrincat,
like they had guys that were there. And look, before that season, that summer, I was like, yeah, this is a team that could go to the playoffs. It was not expected to be what it ended up being. And like he said, 3 months after he signed, the GM that signed him to the deal is fired. All the off the ice stuff blows up. His coach is fired. So now it's interim GM Kyle Davidson. It's interim head coach Derek King. The team's off to a terrible start, and there was no redemption for it. And then after that, it's, now we're going to reset everything, which is not what he signed up for. So he's being honest that he's in a situation that he didn't agree to, but he's here. And he's doing everything that he can, sometimes to the detriment of the team, but he's trying to do everything he can to not make it suck as much as it has. And there's a limitation to what he can do based on his own talents and the players around him. So he's being honest that, this isn't what I signed up for, but I'm here. I'm trying to make the most of it. And now we are at the point where it's not just me, but other people on this team and involved in the organization, head coach, management, everything, are saying now is the time that we need to take the next step. We cannot have seasons like the last two, and that is agreeable across the board. So he's being honest. It's not been a great run for him, but he's at the point where he's like, okay, can we get to this next step? Nick Foligno's been here shorter than Seth Jones is. He's saying, let's get to the next step. Let's not sit in this, we're in a rebuilding phase too long to where it's just like, we're just compiling picks and young guys and nothing ever comes to fruition. Now it's like, okay, young guys, you got to take your next step. Guys that are bought in, that are going to be here, we have to pull forward together as a team and take the next step. And let's bring people who are going to have the right attitudes and the right outlook on being in this situation to move forward, to pull together, to take the next step, and not be weighted down by players that aren't happy with their situation.
Yeah, and Sarah, do you still have the Seth Jones that we played?
Yeah.
Can you just play the first 5 seconds of it? I just want people to hear the first words out of his mouth.
Very exciting. Saw a lot of guys get their first NHL games the last few weeks, and that Daly did a great job of coming in there. You can see he's already had.
It's very exciting. Lots of young guys got their chance.
He's not
unhappy.
He's not denying the direction the team is going in.
He's excited about the future. All he was saying was, this isn't what I signed up for. However, it's time to it's time to take the next step. And guess who said that today? Kyle Davidson.
Right.
Said it's time to take the next step.
A few hours later, he said the same thing.
A few days later.
If Seth Jones stood up there and smiled and said everything's great, I just
love it
kumbaya.
here.
I
Chicago's
love everything
amazing.
here. Nothing
It'd be
was
so
wrong. You'd all be screaming he's full of shit.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he's honest,
Right.
and you're still screaming. Like, the guy got signed here when you still had the same. He got traded for and then signed the extension. At the same time, Marc-Andre Fleury was signed. At the same time, Jake McCabe was signed. You had Alex DeBrincat coming off a career. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews were a year removed from their career years. You had a lot going on here. You had a young Kirby. Like, it was very easy to be like, hey, this could be something here for the next few years. And I'm sorry, but if someone comes and says, I'm going to guarantee you security for 8 years, you're all going to jump on empty machine. You're going to effing sign it too, pal.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So he's not unhappy in Chicago. He's a competitive guy that wants to win, and they're not winning, and that gets frustrating. These guys in this room, when they get in there in the beginning of the year and throughout the season, they think they can win on every night.
Yeah.
They want to win every night. So when they don't, it's a disappointment.
Right.
And then disappointment turns to frustration. And then frustration turns to trying to do too much on the ice, to trying to go in for business for yourself. And then that just snowballs, and then things, just get out of control. We saw that a lot this season, especially when you had so many guys in and out of the lineup with all the injuries, with all the call-ups. It's just, but the bottom line is he raved about Alex Vlasic.
Yeah.
And raved about Kevin Korchinski and raved about Connor Bedard. Like, he sees what's coming up here. So I'm sorry. I really like having a guy in the locker room that hates to lose.
That's it. That's good.
We're getting mad at a guy
So
that
weird.
hates to lose.
It is.
Take your anger because of his contract out on the guy that gave him the
Could be
contract.
another thing too. Let's be honest.
Well, yes, we all know that, but seriously, it's to listen to what he just said and say he doesn't care.
Yeah.
You either didn't listen, or you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
And what he's
and
saying,
this 1 to 2 year deal stuff. Again, go listen. Use your fucking ears. He's not saying don't sign anybody to 1 or 2 year deals this year. He's saying when you have guys in your room that are on short-term deals, it's hard to get everybody pulling in the same directions. He says it's human nature. He's not
not calling them puddlewags or
no,
bad guys or
he's
anything.
just saying it's when you know your contract is up, you're going to try and score a couple extra goals. You're going to try and make a couple extra plays so your agent has a little more ammunition. He's not saying he doesn't want anybody here on 1 to 2 year deals. He's just saying that it's tough when you have a room full of guys on the last year of the deal like the Blackhawks did this year. It's tough to get everybody 100% on board with things and not just saying I don't want to be here, I can't wait to get traded. It's within the game.
Yeah.
Where a guy would say, well, I should probably just dump the puck in and go for a line change here, but nope, I need to make $5 million next year, so I'm going to try and extend my shift and get a goal, and before you know it's a 3-on-1 going the other way.
Hey, there was a guy that spoke today that was on the last year of a $5 million deal, and he may as well have had his foot in the doorstop.
Yeah.
He could not have waited to get out of there.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
And when you listen to what
he had his car keys in his hands.
If you listen to what Foligno said after the LA game, what Seth Jones said today, what Jason Dickinson sort of alluded to today, maybe we could do Foligno's long. Maybe we'll do the Dickinson here in a second. They're clearly talking about someone or someones specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are pissed.
They're bringing up, and I said it to you guys when we were running the Jones clip. They are bringing up specific examples of things that they experienced this year, that's clearly coming from someone, or like you said, some ones that were in the locker room this year. They're not just saying, well, we don't want guys who, they might do this, or they're like, we don't want guys who do exactly these things that hindered us in the locker room this year. I mean, we could speculate all we want on who that might be. I think it's going to be very clear with what happens in the next few months in the offseason who those players were.
Yeah, and go back. We'll throw it up there. We'll have it out there. Listen to Tyler Johnson.
It's out there. It's already on YouTube.
It was that was a guy that just couldn't be bothered with any of it and couldn't wait to go, and I quote, play meaningful hockey again.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
He's done with Chicago.
So
he couldn't be done faster.
But again, as Seth said, it's human nature, right? Like, that's a guy who came from Tampa to Chicago.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Like,
he was sold the same thing Seth Jones was. It's just his contract ended much faster.
Do we have the Jason Dickinson cut? Is that ready to go? Why don't we do that? We're going to talk to Flino later this week, so we can just ask him in person. So let's hear what Jason Dickinson had today. I want to set this up a little bit. He was first asked about the team adjusting to the first-year leadership without Jonathan Toews, which I thought was an interesting way to start.
It's different, and I'm sure a lot of guys that have been here for a while maybe had to adjust to it. I don't want to speak for them, but it's shocking. A guy that's been here for his entire career, he's basically been the voice in the room every single year that he was here, and every single year that the young guys that were here ever had to look to somebody, had to lean on somebody, it was Taser. So there's definitely a change, probably a big change in leadership style, approach that those guys had to adjust to, and then other guys having to step up into leadership roles and take on more of a responsibility. It definitely was good to see, and I loved the growth that I saw in that aspect from a lot of guys, and what is being built in terms of culture from the leadership group is what I like to see personally.
Some of those guys talked earlier about guys not accepting their roles, though, and it seems like they talk the talk when the cameras are rolling, saying the right things, but are they walking the walk? Is everybody walking the walk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's it's pretty easy to see and say. We have video evidence of it all. We can go back and we can watch it the next day. We can watch it the day after that. I've got all of my clips sent to me after every single game, so there's no hiding when it comes to saying certain things and doing others, because we get to watch it, we get to analyze it, we get to pick it apart. So accepting roles, playing to them, it's hard when you have certain expectations for yourself. So I do understand that guys expect certain things of themselves. It's not so much that they expect the team or management or coaching staff to give it to them, but you know what you're capable of. You know what you can do. You want to help the team win. So maybe you have a different understanding of what the team expects from you from what you expect from yourself.
Everybody, they are all saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying stop worrying about your stats and start worrying about helping the team win.
Yep. Yeah, Jason Dickinson.
It's very obvious.
I love when he talks, because he's very thoughtful and very. You really leave talking with him left with many other questions or anything like that. Like he'll give you everything that he can, knowledge wise, and he said it there. It's like there is no hiding from what you're doing on the ice or what your role is supposed to be, or we all have the meetings. We all watch the video. We all analyze it together. Like if you are or are not doing what's expected of you, we all see it. So again, I go back to this idea that I think it's very clear. There was a division in the locker room, not necessarily one group versus the other, but there was a division between guys who were doing their jobs and guys who weren't. And I mean, that's when you have a team like this and it ends up 31st in the league, you can say, like, yes, injuries did hamper this team, but I feel like now as we're hearing what they're saying and we kind of can go back through the season and look back at some different games to different points, you can say, like, this team might have, screwed themselves in some ways.
Yeah. I did not expect today to go this way. I did not expect to hear what we heard from Seth Jones. I didn't expect to see Tyler Johnson act the way he acted. And maybe we're making too much of it. Maybe
I don't think
maybe
Johnson
we're looking
was that,
at it in
like,
hindsight.
He wasn't that brash in being like, see ya, but he definitely was just like, I'm done here. I'm not coming back.
He knows he's
here.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
we get a couple comments about, well, who's the other players? We're going to find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Because they won't be here next year.
Yes.
That's the best way to know who they were.
Yeah.
Is the guys that don't get new contracts. Or maybe there's a surprise trade that, oh, my God, I can't believe they traded that guy. Well, guess what? That's the guy they're talking about.
And
like,
speaking of looking back, like, wow, I can't believe they didn't trade that guy.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
Maybe no one wanted him.
And
right.
We're not going to just sit here and pile on Tyler Johnson today.
I know.
Because
it's not just him.
No, obviously
it may not even be him.
There was a group of guys or small, who knows how big, but they're guys that these veterans, when they say we can't play like that, they're talking to those guys.
Yes.
They know those guys are going to hear those quotes.
Right.
And say, remember that game where Colin Blackwell came back and they beat the Colorado Avalanche?
Yes.
And Devin Taves went scorched earth in the locker room?
Yeah.
He didn't use names.
No.
But those guys that he was talking about,
they heard it.
All of a sudden, except for one of them, who now all of a sudden can't play hockey in Philadelphia, those other guys, they heard it. And when they came back, I talked to our former colleague at DNVR, Jesse, who got that quote. And he was like, yeah, since that quote came out, this guy, they have all bought in. So there's a reason they say things like that.
Yeah.
Because, they're not saying it for us, per se. They are. But they're saying it for their teammates. Because you can sit there and have a conversation with a guy behind the closed doors of the locker room, and that's only going to get you so far. If they're still doing the same things, then you take it where it's out there. And then you get people start speculating. And then you get, but they're never going to say the name. They're never going to come out and say, well, we lost tonight because Taylor Radish sucks. Or we lost tonight because Tyler Johnson didn't want to play defense tonight.
Just player
You're never
X,
going to say that.
Yeah.
No team has ever done. Nobody's going to do that. So, we'll know real soon who those guys that Foligno, Jones, Dickinson, the veterans are talking about. Because you know why? They're going to be wearing different jerseys come next fall.
And let's just clarify, too. If just, for example, Mackenzie Entwistle doesn't come back, it doesn't mean it was Mackenzie Entwistle either.
And I don't.
It's also a numbers game a little bit, too.
Entwistle is that guy.
No, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Because the guys that the traits of players that they are talking about are like, hey, are you going to buy into a role that is not a goal scorer, that is not a playmaker, that is not a top six, that is not a glorified role? Are you going to be okay and lean into playing 10 minutes as a checking forward or penalty killing defenseman or anything like that, and do the difficult things, block shots, lay hits, like make an extra pass to just chip it out of the zone rather than trying to carry it and causing a turnover? Are you okay doing that and having that be your role, or are you going to be pouty and say I should be doing more, I'm more talented, blah 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 blah? Entwistle is a guy who
embraces his
in
role.
Rockford years ago said, okay, I was a point per game guy in the OHL, I can't do that in the AHL, let alone the NHL. I'm going to change my game. So for Mackenzie Entwistle specifically, I don't think he's the problem. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he was brought back.
Yeah, and Jason Dickinson also said during his longer thing, like, hey, I was a first-round pick, and I realized that, well, I'm not going to be a 100-point guy. I had 35 points this year, and I'm happy with it. I'm being talked about for the Selke, and that's great. So that's what I am in the NHL, and everyone has to embrace that role. And if you're, if you think you're a goal scorer, or you used to be a goal scorer, or whatever, that Seth Jones laid it out very clearly. You have to be willing to accept 10 minutes a night and being F1 and going and delivering a check. You're not going to get the puck, but you're going to do the job, and it's going to help the team.
Right.
That is, if you read that backwards, if you hold that up to a mirror, he's saying, if you think you're a goal scorer, too effing bad, do your job.
Right.
Right. And that's where the disconnect is. There are obviously guys in this team that were willing to do that.
Yeah.
And then there are guys that say, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. And then they get on the ice and they do the exact opposite, and they go in for business on themselves, and that happens time and time again. And then that's when you get the breakdown in structures, and it looks like complete chaos.
Right.
And people go, well, it's the coach. Luke Richardson can't get these guys prepared. Well, that's these things have a it's like a piece of glass, throwing a rock into a piece of glass. You have that impact, and then the shadows spread all over the place. And then all of a sudden, you've got a whole bad window instead of just one bad spot.
Let's talk about Luke next, because I really liked it. We don't have it. I didn't have time to cut it all up. But good stuff from him, and then we'll hear from Kyle Davidson as well. But the NHL playoffs are here. Maybe you live out of town. Maybe you're looking for a road trip to take. Get your tickets from our friends at Game Time. And I saw one of our friends, Jennifer, got her tickets to the Ice Hogs game on Game Time the other day. So that's awesome.
The other day over there.
Yeah, so anytime you need tickets to a sporting event, music event, comedy show, theater event near you, hit up our friends at Game Time, because, those big, evil ticket corporations,
Master
they
of
suck,
tickets.
and they are the worst. And Game Time, they're the best. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, the ever-important views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's great. And what I love is the transparency. The price you see is the price you're going to get. There's no surprises like, oh, I just bought three $50 tickets, so my final is going to be $150 plus tax, right? No, because there's processing fees and all that.
$300.
You don't get that crap on Game Time. All you get is transparency, which is what you want. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
And you can drive home a winner this April after visiting our partner, Ray Chevrolet. They're sharing their best offers of the year right now. So make your way to Ray Chevrolet on Route 12 in Fox Lake and join in on all the savings. As of one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the entire Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Plus, you can find the perfect tailgate vehicle for a limited time. They're offering just 0% financing for 72 months on all new Silverados, with over 100 available. And to top it all off, they're pricing over 125 different vehicles under $20,000. Seriously, guys and girls, can pricing get more affordable?
No.
The answer, it cannot.
Nope.
And what's more affordable than free? Nothing. And you can get a free oil change at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake just by mentioning CHGO. A free oil change. All you need to do is mention CHGO when scheduling that oil change. Start off your spring right and schedule it by April 30th. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been servicing the community since 1963. Find new roads.
Find new roads. One thing I did want to say before we move on. I know it's been 10 years since we've seen Olympic hockey, but think of those Olympic rosters: USA, Canada, Sweden, the top guys. Those are all compiled of guys who are premier players, elite level players. So I always think back in 2010, that Team Canada team. Rick Nash is on that team. He's a 50-goal scorer in the NHL, or high 40s. He's playing on a fourth-line role, and they're asking him to play defensively, back check, like kill penalties, and he did, and they won a gold medal. Like, not saying every player is a high-level elite guy that is asking to be played down a role, but there is something to be said to accepting a lesser role if it benefits the rest of the team, because ultimately, especially in hockey, the team success is a huge factor in how guys' legacies are remembered.
Yeah.
Cups and being parts of those teams. Think about the Blackhawks teams.
Look at the beloved Hawks, exactly.
Like Adam Burrish. People love Adam Burrish. Was he a fantastic NHL player? No, but he played a role on that 2010 team that no one in Chicago forgets.
As this was going on today, I was thinking about the Dynasty Red Wings. And that was a time when Detroit was signing anyone they wanted, everyone to come play for Detroit.
Yeah.
But they had room for Maltby, for McCarty. They had spots for those guys because they knew how important that was. Grinders who are willing to grind, guys who are happy to play that role. And that's like, I see Ryan Donato's name is coming up because he's on a 2-year deal. No, Ryan Donato is a guy who has embraced his role and then is rewarded with better opportunity because of it.
Yeah.
Right? And just look at Connor Bedard. Like, Bedard figured out after the jaw injury, like, wait a minute. If I play more defense, I'm going to get more offense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. I'm going to start doing that. Right? So it doesn't mean like, I challenge people to like, don't find the right things to focus on from Seth. Like, I think now a lot of people are like, okay, who is specifically on a 1 or 2 year deal? He could be talking about last year too.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
like
just a general statement.
Yeah, it's a statement of, I think what his message there is, hey, Kyle, if we're going to take this next step, we need guys to really be bought in here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a 1 or 2 year deal. It's got to be someone who is not looking forward to that next contract. It's got to be, I'm signing here in Chicago for 1 or 2 years because I believe in what's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe it ends up in an extension for me in Chicago. Like, Foligno is a good example.
Right.
He comes here, it's like, all right, kind of had to be convinced a little bit, and now he's here and he's on board and he's ready.
You got to have all 18 guys on the ice pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
Because once someone goes the other way, it makes it harder on the other 17.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the Davidson-Richardson part of things. And before we get to what Kyle Davidson had to say, I really liked that. I know Foligno mentioned this, somebody else mentioned this, and then Luke confirmed it, that they're having a dialogue about what they want to change.
Yeah.
And the big thing that sounds like they're changing next year is they're going to have shorter practices that are more intense. Because I think that, and Luke admitted this, like maybe this year we were easing into practice a little bit, and then it was causing us to ease into the games a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think the leadership group, I know Foligno for sure, said to him, hey, let's make these practices shorter. Let's make them more difficult. Mm-hmm. Fighting, battling, not fighting, dropping the gloves, but you know what I mean. Battling in the corners, trying to win pucks, like those sort of things. So the thought is, my skates are on the ice. It is go time. Mm-hmm. And Luke said, yeah, maybe that was something we should have caught earlier this year and adjusted to. So that's what you want to hear from a second-year head coach, willingness to say, great point.
Yeah.
Let's adjust this.
Yeah, he said that he also mentioned that he was told either by Seth or Foligno, like, hey, it's okay to blow the whistle and have us start over again if we're not structured like the way it is. Like they want more accountability from the coaching staff, and Luke says, okay, careful what you wish for sometimes.
No, right, but
that's fine.
This is good. This is what you want. You know, again, like pretty good stuff coming from a guy who, according to some of you, doesn't care and is checked out. But like Luke realizes he's still developing as a coach, just like these players are developing. Mm-hmm. And you take, this is what these interviews are for. At the end of the year, is you sit down and you look. Now that you have hindsight, you could say, all right, maybe we need to do this better, or like pull back on this. These where you make that adjustment. So it will be interesting to see next year. There were a lot of days where we were like, oh, there's no way they're going to skate in between these two games, and they did. Well, maybe next year it's not so much of that. Maybe it's more just we're going to have more intense morning skates, but adjustments are good. And as a good head coach that has longevity, listens to his team.
Yep.
And adjusts from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and the Dynasty era Hawks, their practices were like that.
Yeah.
Like they were short, sweet, to the point. Get on the ice, do your job, put in a hard effort, and get off.
Yeah. And Luke, I think in a little bit of fairness to Luke and his staff this year, and he mentioned this, like we were often integrating new players, young players.
Sure.
We had guys playing in roles they were not really ideally designed for, just out of necessity. So that's part of it. You know, like that was part of it. But he did say, like, hey, maybe we should have caught it earlier. And the fact that, look, like the word accountability, I think, is thrown around a lot and used as accountability means that the coach is going to get in your face and shoot, jardinere at you because he's yelling at you so long, right? That's not what accountability is. Right. But the point that you pointed out, Greg, of we're doing drills, wrong. Whistle, start over. This is the drill. This is what you're supposed to do. Okay, go. Okay, good job. Next. No, wrong. Do it this way. Mm-hmm. We never saw, and, whatever. I don't know if what I'm watching most of the time. Like, this looks like hockey, during a practice. So I don't know if someone's doing something specifically wrong all the time, but that no, that is in the moment accountability of nope, wrong, start over.
Yep.
And then that leads to oh God, I'm the guy who's always screwing up. And then that guy is like, all right, well, maybe I need to focus a little bit more because I'm always the one getting whistled at practice. Mm-hmm. It's all, like you said, it's like the shattered windshield analogy that you used.
It's such a, it's just one guy not doing his job literally will affect everybody else. Right. And to your point earlier, it's tough to have shorter practices or take days off when it's well, we had to pick up Rem Pitlick and Zach Sanford off the scrap heap, and we're playing tomorrow. Guess what? We got to get on the ice today.
Right.
Or we just called up this guy, or this guy's got to now play on his left side. Hopefully with, some much better health luck next year, guys kind of get in the groove early and know what their job is. And it doesn't have to change every 2 games. And they get into a better groove. But I think listening to Luke and listening to those conversations that the players, when talking about Luke, there were a lot of people asked about him. It's encouraging because it just seems like there's a good dialogue between coaching staff and players. And those, tend to be the environments where everybody thrives when there's open channels of communication and not an iron fist saying, no, we're going to do it my way because that's just how it works.
And the last coach.
I was just going to say, the last
second to last coach. Derek
King. The last full-time head coach was stubborn in his ways. And we all witnessed those ways. So, it's good that Luke is open to that, and I think that's part of what's going to eventually make him a successful coach in the NHL and in Chicago is being able to take feedback, respond accordingly, and do that to get the most out of his players. Because if you're just my way or the highway and you're spinning your wheels, you're going to have a short career as a coach.
Yep. All right, why don't we hear
before you know it.
Yes.
Kyle Davidson spoke for 38 minutes. Whew. It's going to be up on YouTube.
Settle in for 38 minutes.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
We're going to go out for pizza. And we'll catch up with you.
No, we're going to play the gist of it here. This is kind of the big theme of what he had to talk about. But all this stuff is going to be up on our YouTube page. So,
and we have shows all
we're going to get
week,
this stuff all
Monday
week.
through Friday to cut through more of this.
But let's hear from Kyle Davidson on kind of what he's looking at going to the offseason here.
I think this season showed there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of steps we need to take and steps that we're gonna work to make good on in the future here. And we wanna take the next step here and progress. We don't want to finish where we finished this year moving forward. That's not what we're looking to do anymore. And so it's something that we're going to be conscious of moving forward, and hopefully we can see a little more success and some positive steps in the standings and on the ice here moving forward. So,
what is a realistic expectation for next season in terms of place in the standings, finish, remaining in the playoff hunt, etc.?
Yeah, I think that's as we stand here today, it's probably really hard to put a pinpoint on, but there needs to be a progression. I don't know how many points or standing slots that is, but we can't finish second last in the league. I think the standard has to be raised, the expectation has to be raised. Through that, accountability will be raised, and so and that's the nature of the path we're on. Eventually, we have to start making positive steps, and I think we've reached that point. I'm not saying that we're going to be competing for playoffs or Stanley Cups or anything this next year. I don't know how realistic that is. It's the best league in the world, best players and best teams in the world, and so to say we're just going to improve a whole great deal in the standings is difficult, but we need to be better, and it's time to take a step forward. Last year we finished, previous to this year, we finished third last, we finished second last. That can't happen again. We need to start moving up and onward, and so that's the exciting part of the process, is that it may not be a huge leap, but there has to be some positive momentum to be carried forward starting next year.
Love that.
Yeah,
Cool.
he flat out said it. It is
Sounds
time
good.
to take the next step. So phase 2 of the rebuild seems to be upon us.
Yeah, I think it's clear that being in this position, bottom 5 rather, of the league is no longer going to be the expectation and the standard. Like that has to rise. Now he said that, not going to say that we're going to be cup contenders next year in all reality, but it's going to likely be, and there's going to be roster turnover, and it's going to create competition for roster spots. Nothing's going to be handed to anybody. Even as excited as we all are about these young players, they're going to have to go in and take roster spots. It sounds like Kyle Davidson's probably going to be active in trades or free agency to get some veterans in here to push those players and push for roster spots and improve the lineup across the board and get guys around guys like Connor Bedard and Vlasic and all that to help push them forward. And so it all goes in that direction as a group. And that's exciting. They're doing that. They're going to go in that direction, but they still also have a ton of draft picks. So it's not necessarily like we're completely giving up on what got us here. They're still going to focus on having a strong prospect system, having draft picks be useful. But now it is going to be more or less like, how competitive of a product are we putting on the ice in the NHL, and how is that helping this next group that's coming forward?
Yeah, so I think you can, and Cricket is asking, so no more front office moves to help a team lose. Yeah, you're not going to see any more like Nikita Zaitsev style moves like, well, we'll take on your bad player because you're going to give us an asset to do it, unless that bad contract actually helps the team. Fine.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see moves to make this team better and that fit this roster. Mm-hmm. And he went out of his way, and he did say, like, we have to be realistic here. We don't know who's going to be available July 1st.
Yeah.
We don't know who's going to be on the trade market. We know that it's going to take some convincing for guys to come here, and they may not be sold yet. And he also said, we're not going to put ourselves in a situation where 3-4 years down the road, we're going to be regretting the decision, because there is a lot of talent coming through the pipeline. They don't want to waste what they've already developed and going to sign some second-rate free agent just to do it for 5 or 6 years or 8 years or whatever. It's going to tie up a spot. So he did sort of qualify it, but I think he has to. It's his job to qualify it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked hearing that. I mean, I think we all kind of knew that was the natural progression. Kind of fits in line with when we were having discussions in the past few days, couple weeks, about the UFAs and RFAs on this team. Which ones do you want to bring back? Which ones are you cutting bait with? And like a guy like Colin Blackwell came up, and we were all kind of like, sure, that's fine if they bring him back. It's okay if they don't. And I was like, can we get to a point where we raise the bar a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not trying to rip on Colin Blackwell.
Oh, he knows you.
Because that's
he heard
right.
you.
He knows the people that rip him.
He put it there on you, idiot.
Yeah. Well,
I'll have you know, sir.
How did that work out?
I
for the
played with
Rangers?
one Artemi Panarin.
Yes, he did, and they lost in the first round. So
that was fun to do.
But I'm just saying, like, can we? I know we have a lot of guys that are like, oh, he's a good veteran leader and he's an energy guy. Well, can we raise the bar from that? And it sounds like they're going to. Now, don't get. I know it's too late for some of you, but don't get super excited like, oh, we're going to be the biggest team in free agency. We're going to go out and get all the guys. No. You got to get the guys that make the right sense. And as Luke Richardson said when he was asked about what this team needs going forward, he kind of alluded to the point where like, yeah, you may pinpoint 3 or 4 guys that you think are perfect for your team, but those guys also have to want to come here.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, it's not a game of kickball on the ball, the playground where you pick a guy, he comes on your team no matter what.
Right.
Like they also have to want to be here. And for some of these free agents, they're going to want a ton of years or they want a chance to win. And I don't think the Blackhawks are in the position to really offer, definitely not the winning, at least not a cup in the next 2 years. I don't think they're in the position where they want to offer 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Maybe for the right guy, if something happens where one of these pending RFAs, these younger players hits the market unexpectedly, like a Natchez per se in Carolina. I don't think that's going to happen, but say the Hurricanes really want to sign Jake Gutzel and a couple of their other defensemen, and they said, well, we're now willing to trade this guy, Martin Natchez, and then you want to give up a bunch of your picks and prospects and then sign that guy to a 7 or 8 year deal beyond that or whatever, fine, sure, that at least makes sense. That's a guy entering the prime of his career. You don't want to do that for a guy that's past the prime of his career.
And again, I think I'm predicting our offseason is going to be hung up on people if a 1 or 2 year deal is signed are going to say, Seth Jones said that can't work. No. 1 or 2 year deals for guys willing to accept their roles.
Right.
That's different. It's a different thing. So, like, there's probably going to be 1, 2, 3 year deals signed this offseason. Don't panic when it happens. That's not what Seth was saying. A couple other things from Kyle. You asked about the goalies. Basically, flat out said there's a goalie competition for the backup spot.
Yep. As there should be.
Yeah. He said with every position, but yes, there will be one for the goalies.
Yeah, he definitely did not make it sound like it's too secure for our Minnesota going forward, which it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
Also, when Taylor Hall was mentioned, he did kind of say like, yeah, Taylor Hall, but also, maybe someone else like that. He did not, eliminate the opportunity of a top 6 kind of a player for Bedard specifically. So they're open-minded. They've got, there's going to be some significant moves made this offseason one way or another. And that's what we've been talking about, right? Like, I don't think earlier this week we were sort of speculating, hey, maybe this is the year they do that. We got confirmation of that. I don't think it changes much. Like you said, it's not going to be, here's an 8-year, $13 million deal for Sam Reinhart.
Right.
That's not going to be the case, but I think they're going to bring in guys that are going to make this team better, more competitive, that actually fit into a spot and fit into a role.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of like, man, I really wish they'd gotten JT Compher. I know they were talking to him this summer, and he chose Detroit.
Northbrook zone.
But that's just a really nice.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking
playing
about.
just as many playoff games with the Red Wings as he would if he would have signed here.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
How'd
a
that work
guy
out
who
for you,
is
JT?
comfortable in his role.
Right, yeah.
Like it's.
Well,
Max Domi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You bring up Max Domi, and I was just about to bring him up too in this context when Foligno was talking about character players, identity pieces. That was a buzzword today. Identity pieces,
and a-holes,
and a-holes. So yes, that was in this quote. Now I will say, peel back the curtain. I was trying my damnedest to get as many quotes correct as possible, but some of these guys talk either super fast,
obviously,
or super long,
for sure,
and you can't get everything. So I tried to on the CHGO Blackhawks account. If you're upset with any of the quotes, if they don't seem cohesive or whatever, did my best to get all the information in there. But this is summed up what Foligno had to say about identity pieces and the makeup of the roster, and to the point of like who maybe they might be targeting in the offseason. He says you need character players. You do need different views and opinions. That's the beauty of a team coming together for a common goal. You can never have enough of guys who bring juice, mojo, energy to a group. You need guys who will pull you into the fight. Max Domi sounds
Dude.
just like that guy.
He will pull the fight to you.
Yes, exactly.
And he likes juice as long as it's not.
He's got a new juice to try.
As long as it's not BioSteel, he will drink any other juice you have.
To try. Now that BioSteel is bankrupt and no longer the drink of the NHL, and Max Domi hasn't been here,
Fanatics,
not
next.
a fan.
Yes, Max Domi was the one that was not a fan of BioSteel.
Yeah, and I will say too, like, it was a quieter room this year. There wasn't like the chirpy, like when we'd walk
Back
in
and
there.
forth,
There wasn't anyone who was real like loud or like they were friendly. They all seemed to get along.
The
Like,
loudest guy was Peter Mrazek.
yeah, it was never like tense or quiet, but there was not that like, oh my god, this guy needs to shut the hell up kind of a like
was
we
Max
always
Domi
hear. We
2
always
years
watch the
ago.
old videos of the Dynasty. You just hear Brent Seabrook's like high pitched voice, like in the background of everything. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Shut up! Stop talking. And I think Domi is that, and Brad
Domi's a guy
Marchand is
like
that.
that,
Like,
yeah.
you need that guy who's going to keep the room moving. But, chat, it's not going to be Brady Tkachuk. Stop. Stop yourselves.
He's not a free agent, and B, the Senators are not trading him.
And Alex, Patrick Kane was also not that kind of guy. Patrick Kane was very quiet, very much to himself.
Yeah, and to your point, yeah, the room had a different feel this year, but again, no Max Domi, no Alex Stalock. Those are the guys.
Those are the talkers.
But to kind of like go back to what we were talking about earlier about, who is this player or players that aren't accepting their roles? You could kind of, when you think back at the year as a whole and our observations of just, when you get in the room, you kind of just stand back for a couple minutes to figure out who's talking and whatnot. You see how people interact, and you could kind of, if you start playing those scenes back in your head, you can kind of figure out who the guys who bought in were and who the guys that are just kind of like, I'm gonna just go out there and do my thing. But I'm excited for the off season. Last year at this point, we were full of anxiety because we didn't know. It was all about got to win the draft lottery. Got to win the draft lottery.
Do you think they plan on getting a good player?
I was just gonna say.
the top four?
I was really just gonna say.
Is that the strategy?
I was gonna say we can confirm
I
Kyle
think there's-
Davidson is going to draft an impactful player this year.
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
I mean,
There's a chance they might do that.
So we don't have that anxiety. We don't have that stress to worry about. Yeah, there can be a draft lotto, but if they don't win number one, it's not the end of the world. It's this could be a different off season. It's gonna be a fun off season. Maybe there'll be some surprises. I think we're probably gonna get a trade that comes out of nowhere.
Like Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno trade?
Something along that line, but we're trading away somebody that we wouldn't have expected.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe something you trade,
Connor Bedard.
you trade one of your prospects, your up and coming young guys to get that veteran that everybody wants, that 26, 27-year-old guy that's hitting the prime. Maybe
Matthew
you do
Tkachuk.
that. Sure, Brady Tkachuk. Apparently, Brady Tkachuk is available. So
No one out in a first for Brady Tkachuk. Who says no?
Ottawa.
Well, maybe if Pierre Dorian was still there,
what first is it?
He could have talked
Made
on
his
his
fake phone
He
call?
could have talked on his phone that
Yeah.
wasn't on. Hey, we just traded for
Yeah. Well, it is going to be interesting. I think you should be encouraged, Hawks fans, that the front office, the GM, the coach,
they listen.
feel
to
the
us.
way you do. It is time to take the next step here, and you can't just keep losing and losing and losing because that is toxic. You've got veterans who are annoyed, and you don't want young players getting used to losing. And they see that, they hear that, they feel that.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. They're going to make something happen.
And let's give credit to Kyle Davidson and the front office group. Like, their plan was never to just sit for 5 to 6 years in tank mode and just stockpile all these picks and prospects that may or may never go anywhere. This is part of their plan.
Yeah.
They thought this year was going to be better than finishing 31st in the league. So the jump to this next step that now they're talking about from today wasn't going to seem so drastic. If this season went according to plan, quote unquote, if they're 25 24th in the league, thinking, okay, let's take the next step and let's play some games that are meaningful into March as maybe hanging around the wild card chase or something like that. That wouldn't seem such a big leap from 31st to that if this season had gone the way that it was lined up to go before injuries and everything else kind of derailed that.
Yep. Hey, do us a favor. We got a lot of people watching. Thank you. It's Saturday afternoon, and we have over 200 people watching us live right now, and many more will be listening on the podcast. So hit that like button for us.
Yes.
That's very, very helpful. Please do that. And we want to remind everybody, we have playoff action starting in
14 minutes.
14 minutes. If you're a diehard
Quickly fill out
and
your
you have
bracket.
not signed up for our bracket challenge, you have 14 minutes to do it. You can find it in our members-only Discord, or if you go to allchgo.com and read my Blackhawks Beat newsletter, it's the 15 best moments of the season. The link is right there in the opening paragraph. It's got the password to enter and everything. So you've got 14 minutes to do it, but you have to be a diehard. Allchgo.com. Find my Blackhawks Beat, should be right there towards the top. And it's right there in the article there. So if you want to become a diehard real quick, allchgo.com is a place to do that as well.
Yeah, I filled out mine just a couple minutes ago, so got all that taken care of. We have a ton in there.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Almost we have 39 in there right now. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. First game starts in 13 minutes.
All right, well, should we revisit our preseason predictions before we...
we can. They're not great.
All right.
And I can't, for whatever reason, I lost your...
oh, no.
Wild card predictions for the Western Conference, and I'm trying to see if I could figure
I think
it
I
out.
had... trying to think. I had Nashville and...
I'm sure you did.
Vegas. Yeah, I think that... Those are my wild card picks.
Anyway, before the season started, we did our predictions of who we thought were going to make the playoffs. In the Atlantic Division, I can go through Jay's. We'll just go down the line.
No.
Jay had Toronto, Buffalo, Tampa out of the Atlanta.
Way to go, Sabres.
New Jersey, Carolina, Rangers in the Metro.
Okay.
Pittsburgh and Boston as the two wild cards. To your credit, you were the only one on this panel that picked Boston to even make the playoffs.
All right.
We were.
Look at me. Credit to me.
In the West, you had Edmonton, Vegas, L.A. Dallas. You picked Dallas to win the President's Trophy. Almost there.
Almost.
Colorado, Minnesota, and I don't have your two wild card teams. I don't know what
Someone picked Arizona as a playoff team.
That's one of them.
I did have
Arizona.
And who would your other? Would you pick another Central team?
I don't remember. The Hawks.
Sure. Yes, you did have Arizona. But all right, and then
by the way, in my bracket, I have the Stars winning the Cup.
I do too.
Not me.
Well, sorry, Stars.
I'm sticking with my original pick. We have I had in the East Atlantic Toronto, Florida, Buffalo, Metro, Devils, Hurricanes, Rangers. My two wildcard teams were Tampa and Pittsburgh. In the West, the Pacific, I had Edmonton, Vegas, Calgary, top three. Picked Dallas to win the division and have the most points in the West. Colorado and Nashville. Took a beating for that Nashville pick, but it's looking pretty good. And then West, I had Minnesota and LA as the wild cards. Mario, Atlantic, you had Toronto, Tampa, Florida. We were all across the board, Devils, Hurricanes, Rangers in the Metro. You had Buffalo and Pittsburgh as your wild card teams. Edmonton, Vegas, LA in the Pacific. Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota in the Central. Your two wild card picks were Seattle and Calgary.
I think I had
I was
Calgary.
wrong.
That might have been my other one.
Might have been.
Just thinking back to that, I'm like, yeah.
I think, now that you mentioned it, because I had them written down and somehow it got deleted.
Yeah, I think it was Calgary.
So none of us had Vancouver, but they
Not a lot of
were.
people did.
Not a lot of people did.
They were on the verge of a rebuild.
And
They're going to tear it down.
Nobody had the Islanders. We all thought they were done. But
I just often forget they exist.
Well, now they got Patrick Waugh.
They're like your version of my Nikita Zaitsev.
So
Oh, yeah.
and Chris's name.
Yeah.
But so we weren't great at these predictions. We were all on the Devils train, and that train got derailed early and never got back on track.
Buffalo too.
We all liked Buffalo.
Yep.
The sexy picks this
Only
year.
only one of us picked Boston, and that was a wild card. One of these years, I'm going to pick Boston to miss the playoff, and we'll be right.
Yeah.
This year was not that year.
Not this year.
So, all right, what do we think first round? Should we just do
Let's do first round.
Series by series real quick?
Have my bracket.
For everyone asking in the comments, the Connor Bedard press conference is already posted.
Yep.
It became live at 3:45.
You can check it out when
When
we're
we're
done
done.
with this.
And,
Go listen to and we've got all
he didn't
next
really
week
have
to
too
talk
many juicy nuggets.
He usually doesn't.
He didn't throw anybody under
His
the bus.
nuggets were dry.
Ugh, dry nuggets.
Anyways, first round, I'll start. I got mine pulled up here. I have the Panthers over the Lightning in 6 games, for those that care. I have Boston over Toronto in 7 games because, of course, I'm just following the script. Rangers over the Capitals in 5. I think the Capitals feel good story as a playoff team ends.
Is it?
Carolina over the Islanders in 6 games. Out west, I got Dallas over Vegas in 6. I have Colorado over Winnipeg in 7. I want a juicy series there. Vancouver over Nashville in 6. Edmonton over LA in 6. And my Stanley Cup champion is the Dallas Stars.
All right. It is loading very slowly for me. You got yours ready, Greg?
I got
It's
mine
probably because a
ready.
lot of people are filling out their brackets
Must be all
real
the diehards
fast.
jumping on.
I'll start with the West. I have Dallas over Vegas in 7 games.
Ugh.
I have Colorado over Winnipeg in 6 games. I have the Nashville Predators over the Vancouver Canucks in 6 games. I just think they've been playing meaningful hockey, and Vancouver hasn't in a while. And meltdowns in Vancouver seem to be a tradition.
Are the 2 games that they're going to lose when they play in Vancouver and they play where the streets have no names?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's Nashville's kryptonite.
Yeah, and then I have the Oilers over the Kings in 6. The eastern side, I have Panthers over Bolts in 6. Bruins over Maple Leafs in 7. Rangers over Capitals in 6. I think the Capitals are going to make that a little tougher than most people predicting. Okay. And then I have Carolina over the Islanders in 5.
And we are very close on our brackets here. All right,
Which means none of this is going to happen.
I know. I have Dallas over Vegas in 6. I have Colorado over Winnipeg in 7. I'm not super confident about that one, but they're just too talented. I have Nashville over Vancouver in 6. I have Edmonton over LA in 6. Florida over Tampa in 6. Toronto beats Boston in 7.
Oh, okay.
And then I've got the Rangers beating the Caps in 7. I kind of agree with you. The Caps are going to give the Rangers a little more than expected.
Okay.
And the Rangers will pee down their leg, but somehow win just out of talent. And then I've got the Hurricanes beating the Islanders in 5.
Okay. There you go. 2 of the things, like when I went back and listened to our prediction show to get our predictions down, 2 of the things I got a lot of joy over was the amount of crap I got from my Predators pick, knowing that actually came true, and the amount of crap we gave you when you told us that Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi were going to change things in Toronto, and you have them winning in the first round.
I do.
Okay.
The fraudulent Bruins. Have we forgotten?
No.
Yeah, but they're the fraudulent Bruins last year. The Maple Leafs have been fraudulent since 1967.
It's not about that. Laundry is not fraudulent.
Yeah.
Tim Horton has nothing to do with Austin Matthews.
Yes, he does.
It does have something to do with Ryan O'Reilly, though. All right.
Well, he didn't want to play in Toronto, so.
Oh, there you go. That's how you do it.
You knew.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. You still got, probably 5 minutes to get those brackets in if you haven't yet.
Yep.
So we're going to be back Monday. We know we're going to have Nick Foligno next week. Not sure which day yet. But the plan probably for Monday will be mailbag as we approach the offseason here.
We
we'll
have
plenty of
45 minutes of videos.
Yeah, we got
a ton of
we can
videos
get
to
through
show
more,
yet still.
more stuff, yeah.
But
yeah.
most of this stuff is going to be up on our YouTube today. So if you want to go hear all of Kyle Davidson, all of Luke Richardson, all of Connor Bedard, I don't know if I put the full Dickinson up there. We'll
Gotta
see.
go full Dickinson.
We'll add 2 things as they go. Yes, the full Dickinson's up there. All right. I haven't done Korchinski yet. We need to do that one.
Sure. It's good to have it.
All right. Well, I'll go home and do some more work. And we'll get them up on
And
YouTube.
also, as Pace Setter says, our friends at What Chaos, they're doing a live stream watch-along party for both playoff games today.
Yes.
And they've been streaming since like 2 o'clock, I think. So,
Are they bopping it?
They might be. I don't know. Now
gluttons.
that the game's around, they might be. And
go check out their regular season recap on the Twitters. If
Yeah,
you
it was
can.
a fun video.
Good stuff.
And
Spark.
speaking of playoff watch-alongs,
yeah, Monday night.
Monday night we're going to be at the Barn Hockey Bar, right there on Ogden between Adams and Monroe. We'll be there at 6 watching the hockey action. You don't need any tickets. You don't need to be a diehard. Just show up, hang out with us. Just promise you'll drink some Coors Light, eat some pizza and poutine with us, and that's all you need to do to come in and
Poutine
enjoy
pizza.
some playoff hockey. It's going to be a good time.
The poutine machine will be there.
Put the poutine on the pizza.
I'll bet they would do that for us.
If not, I'll do it with a spoon.
That's fair enough. All right, we'll talk to everybody Monday at 2:30 and see everybody Monday at 6 at the Barn. Thanks for watching the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.